My wife, Sarah, and I were supposed to be the perfect couple. We'd been married for 5 years, lived in a nice house in the suburbs, and everyone thought we were the picture of happiness. But for the past few months, something had been off. Sarah was distant, always on her phone, and her work trips became more frequent. I tried to talk to her, but she'd just brush it off, saying I was being paranoid. I wanted to believe her. I really did, but my gut told me something was wrong. The turning point came one evening when she said she was going on another business trip for the weekend. I found her packing, and she seemed overly excited, which was strange for a work trip. I casually asked where she was going this time. She hesitated for a second before saying, "Oh, just a conference in the city. You know how it is." The city was only an hour away, but she was packing like she was going on a tropical vacation. That's when I saw Ita, a new bikini, peeking out of her suitcase. A conference in the city in the middle of fall didn't exactly scream bikini weather. My heart sank. The lie was so blatant, so careless. That night, I couldn't sleep. The image of that bikini was burned into my mind. I started digging. It felt double-rund, like a violation of her privacy, but I had to know the truth. I checked our shared computer and found her browser history. There were searches for romantic getaways, flights to a beach resort, not a business conference. And then I saw the emails. The emails between her and a man named Mark. He was an old college friend of hers I'd met a few times. The messages were filled with "Iko, UN wait to see you, and this weekend will be our escape." It was all there, in black and white. They had been planning this trip for weeks. The pain was sharp, like a physical blow. It wasn't just the cheating, it was the elaborate web of lies she had spun. I felt a storm of emotions rage, heartbreak, betrayal. My first instinct was to confront her, to scream and shout. But then, a different idea started to form. A cold, calculated calm washed over me. She wanted to play games. Fine. Two could play. She thought she was so clever, but she had underestimated me. I wasn't going to let her get away with this. I was going to give her a weekend she would never, ever forget, but not in the way she was expecting. The next morning, I drove her to the airport. I played the part of the loving, supportive husband perfectly. I kissed her goodbye, told her to have a great trip, and wished her luck at her conference. She smiled, gave me a quick peck on the cheek, and walked away without a second glance. The moment she was out of sight, my plan kicked into high gear. I had spent the entire night preparing. First, I called her bank and reported her credit cards as lost. I knew she was relying on them for the trip. Next, I went home and packed all of her things. Not just the clothes in her closet, but everything. Her makeup, her shoes, her favorite books, her sentimental every single thing that belonged to her was carefully packed into boxers. Then, I called a few of my friends, the ones who had always been there for me. They knew something was wrong, and when I told them the story, they were ready to help without question. We spent the rest of the day moving all of her boxers into a storage unit I had rented that morning. As I looked at the empty spaces in our Homabera closet, the empty side of the bed, it didn't feel sad. It felt like a clean slate. It felt like I was taking my life back. Meanwhile, I can only imagine the scene at the resort. Sarah and Mark arrive, ready for their romantic weekend, only to have her credit cards declined. The hotel reservation, which she had made, was probably a mess. I pictured the panic in her eyes, the confusion, the dawning horror as she realized something was terribly wrong. She would have called the bank, only to be told the cards were canceled. She would have tried to call me, but I didn't answer. I let every call go straight to voicemail. I wanted her to feel a fraction of the helplessness I had felt. The next day, the real fun began. I sent her a single text message. It was a picture of our empty closet, followed by a photo of her belongings stacked in the storage unit. Then, I sent one more message. "I hope you and Mark are having a wonderful trip. When you get back, your things will be waiting for you. The key to the storage unit is under the doormat. Our doormat. By the way, I've also contacted a lawyer. The divorce papers will be served soon. Have a nice life, Sarah." And then, I blocked her number. The fallout was immediate. My phone blew up with calls and texts from her family and our mutual friends. I ignored most of them. The ones I did answer, I simply told them the truth. The story spread like wildfire. The sympathy she might have gotten evaporated when people learned about the months of deception. She had built her castle on a foundation of lies, and I just gave it a little push. When Sarah finally came back, she didn't come to the house. She couldn't. I had already changed the locks. She had to go straight to the storage unit to get her things. A humbling experience, I'm sure. She tried to reach out through friends, sending messages filled with apologies and excuses. She said it was a mistake, that she still loved me. But the trust was shattered beyond repair. It wasn't just about the affair. It was about the complete and utter disrespect. She thought I was a fool she could manipulate. She learned the hard way that I wasn't. Some might say what I did was harsh, but I don't see it that way. I gave her exactly what she deserved. She wanted a new life, and I just helped her start it a little sooner than she planned. The divorce was quick. I had all the evidence I needed. I kept the house, and she was left with her boxers and the consequences of her choices. It's been a year now. I've been working on myself, rediscovering who I am without her. It hasn't been easy, but every day gets a little better. I learned a valuable lesson about trust and self-respect. And as for Sarah, I hear she and Mark didn't last. Turns out, a relationship that starts with lies doesn't have a very strong future. Who would have guessed? Sometimes, the best revenge isn't about getting even. It's about moving on and building a better life. And that's exactly what I'm doing. Thanks for listening to my story. If you've been through something similar, know that you're not alone, and it does get better. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories.